The twin suns of Trathar 9 burned low in the violet sky, their light reflecting off the silver towers of the human colony known as New Arcadia. Ships rose and fell from the landing pads, leaving trails of blue fire as they departed for orbit. The city, once full of sound and laughter, now felt like a place being quietly erased. Captain Mira Hale stood on the balcony of the command spire, watching the evacuation with a heavy heart. She had led the colony for 6 years, helping humans and Tratharians, the native species, build a life together on this once hostile world. Now all of it was ending. The message from Earth Command still echoed in her mind. All human personnel and assets are to withdraw from Trathar 9. Effective immediately. No exceptions. She didn't understand it. The colony was stable, the trade routes were growing, and the Tratharians had finally accepted humans as partners. Why pull out now? Footsteps approached behind her. It was Lieutenant Jason Rowe, her second in command. His usual grin was gone. "Command transport is fueled and ready, ma'am," he said quietly. "Most of the civilian ships are in orbit." Mira didn't turn around. "And the Tratharian Council?" "They're not taking it well," Rowe admitted. "Ambassador Varek is here. He's waiting for you in the council hall." Mira sighed and straightened her uniform. "Then let's not keep him waiting." The Tratharian Council Hall was an ancient building carved into a mountain of living crystal. Inside, light refracted across the walls, turning every movement into waves of color. The Tratharians were tall, elegant beings with eyes like polished stones and skin that shimmered faintly under light. Ambassador Varek stood near the center, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. His usually calm face was full of restrained anger. "Captain Hale," he said, his voice carrying the low hum of his species, "tell me this is a misunderstanding." Mira walked toward him slowly. "I wish I could, Varek. The order came from the Galactic Council through Earth Command. We're required to leave." "Leave?" Varek's tone sharpened. "You cannot simply leave. The pirates will return. The illegals will come back the moment your warships are gone." The word made Mira flinch. The illegals, a vast criminal syndicate that controlled smuggling, slavery, and black market technology across dozens of sectors. They had once tried to claim Trathar 9 before the humans arrived. It was humanity's firm stand that had kept them away all these years. "We've been promised protection," Mira said, though her voice lacked conviction. "The council says they'll send patrol fleets." Varek's 4 eyes glowed faintly in disbelief. "The same council that ignored us for decades? Captain, you know what will happen once you leave. You have seen their ships. You have fought their kind." Mira had no answer. She remembered the illegals' attack on Theta Colony, a massacre that took 2 years to recover from. The Galactic Council had arrived only after the smoke cleared. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "My orders are clear. If I disobey, Earth Command will shut down our supply routes and blacklist every human ship that stays behind. We'll be stranded." Varek's voice lowered. "Then humanity will not only abandon us. You will abandon your own honor." Mira looked at him, eyes cold but sorrowful. "I'm not abandoning you. I just can't fight a war I'm not allowed to fight." Hours later, the command ship Resolute lifted off from the colony's spaceport. Thousands of colonists watched from below, humans and Tratharians alike, as the last of Earth's ships rose into the stars. For a brief moment, the sky was filled with light, and then it was empty. On the bridge, Mira stood silent as Trathar 9 shrank on the main display. Lieutenant Rowe checked the sensors. "All ships accounted for," he reported. "We're clear to jump to the Sol Gate." Mira nodded. "Engage once we're past the outer ring." The hum of the engines filled the ship. Crew members sat quietly, eyes on their stations, faces drawn with unease. No one spoke of it, but they all felt the same thing. This didn't feel like a victory. It felt like betrayal. Rowe broke the silence. "You think Varek's right? That the illegals will come?" Mira asked. "Yes, they've been watching us for years. They only fear humans. Then what happens when they realize we're gone?" Mira didn't answer. Outside the viewport, the pale blue curve of Trathar 9 faded into the blackness of space. Far below, on the planet's dark side, Varek stood on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. Night winds carried dust from the plains. Behind him, Tratharian soldiers dismantled what was left of the human defense towers, following council instructions to turn them over to local authority. He clenched his fists. Local authority meant nothing when the criminals came. His second-in-command, a young Tratharian named Lura 10, approached. "The humans are gone," she said quietly. Varek nodded. "And so, The vultures will come. As if on cue, his communicator buzzed with an emergency signal from the northern settlements. The operator's voice trembled with fear. Ambassador! Unidentified ships detected above the outer ring. Dozens, maybe more. Their drives match illegal signature patterns. Varric froze. So soon? He turned toward the dark horizon, where faint streaks of red light were starting to appear in the upper atmosphere. The illegals hadn't wasted a single day. Back in orbit aboard the Resolute, the humans were preparing for their jump to the Sol Gate. Mira sat in her command chair, staring at the blinking message on her private console, a communication from the Galactic Council. Human withdrawal confirmed. Trathorn security transferred to Council oversight. Do not return. Further interference will result in disciplinary action. She deleted the message without reading the rest. Ro leaned toward her. We're at the jump point, Captain. Hold for a moment, she said. He frowned. Ma'am? Something doesn't feel right. Before he could respond, the ship's sensors began to wail. Red lights flashed across the bridge. The officer at the scanner station shouted, multiple warp signatures appearing in the outer ring. Unknown configuration. Mira stood immediately. Visuals? The main screen lit up with shapes emerging from the shadows of the planet's rings. Sleek black ships with angular designs. They spread out like sharks in the water, blocking the trade routes and scattering communication relays. Ro's face went pale. Those are illegals. No question. Mira's heart pounded. How many? At least 50 warships. Maybe more hiding behind the debris field. She clenched her fists. They waited for us to leave. The illegal ships began firing toward the surface, energy bolts cutting through the upper atmosphere. The humans watched in horror as small explosions flared across the planet's night side. Colonial cities are being hit, reported the tactical officer. No resistance detected. Ro turned to Mira. We have to go back. Mira shook her head, torn between duty and instinct. If we engage, we'll be defying orders. Earth Command will. Earth Command isn't here, Ro interrupted. Those people are. Silence filled the bridge. Every crew member stared at Mira, waiting. Outside, the illegals' fleet continued to descend, each ship glowing red like a wound in the sky. Finally, Mira whispered, set course to the Sol Gate. Ro hesitated. Captain? Set the course, she repeated firmly. We can't fight them, not yet. The ship's engines roared to life. One by one, the human transports aligned with the Resolute and prepared for the jump. As the stars stretched into lines of light, Mira took one last look at Trathor 9. Her voice was soft, almost a promise. Hold on, Varric. We'll find a way. And with that, the fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a planet about to fall into darkness. Smoke rose from the cities of Trathor 9. The night sky, once full of stars, was now covered by the dark silhouettes of illegals' warships. They descended like predators, their engines glowing red as they poured fire down on the surface. Everywhere, the sound of explosions echoed through the canyons and plains. The Tratharian defense towers, once operated by human engineers, stood silent. Without human codes, they could not even power up their shields. Inside the shattered council hall, Ambassador Varric stood among the ruins. The air shimmered with heat and the crystal walls were cracked. His people ran through the streets trying to save what little they could. His second-in-command, Lura 10, rushed to him. Her pale blue skin was smeared with dust. Ambassador, we've lost the northern districts. The illegals are taking prisoners. Anyone who resists is stunned and dragged away. Varric's eyes hardened. They moved quickly, just as I feared. He looked up toward the sky where streaks of light fell like shooting stars, drop pods full of armed illegals. Where is the Galactic Council? He said bitterly. Where are their promised fleets? Lura 10 didn't answer. Everyone already knew. The Council was doing nothing. Far away, in deep space, the human fleet was returning to Earth-controlled territory. Inside the Resolute, Captain Mira Hale sat in the strategy room with her senior officers. The atmosphere was heavy with silence. Lieutenant Ro placed a datapad on the table. Ma'am, we've received the official statement from the Galactic Council. They're calling Trathor 9 a local matter. No intervention planned. Mira's jaw tightened. So they'll just let it burn? Pretty much, Ro said. And Command agrees with them. They've ordered us to stand down and prepare for reassignment. Mira stared at the holographic map of the sector. The image of Trathar 9 blinked red, distress signals still coming from the planet. "We spent 6 years building that colony," she whispered. "We turned it from a desert into a home. And now we just watch it die." Ro sighed. "It's not right, Captain. But if we go back, we'll be labeled traitors." Mira rose from her chair. Maybe being a traitor is better than being a coward. On Trathar 9, Varek and his small band of soldiers regrouped in the underground tunnels once used for mining. The dim lights flickered as they patched together old human equipment, tools left behind in the evacuation. They had managed to recover a few human drones and portable comms, and Varek was determined to use them. "The humans may have left," he said, "but their machines still listen." He turned to Luraten. "Bring me the emergency transmitter." She hesitated. "Ambassador, if you send a message, the illegals will detect it." "Let them," Varek replied. "If they hear me begging for help, maybe they'll think I've already lost." He activated the human-built transmitter. It was old and covered in scratches, but it still glowed blue as he entered his message. His four-fingered hands moved quickly, typing in a mix of Tratharian language and human code. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "To any human vessel within range. This is Varek of Trathar 9. The illegals have returned. They are taking our cities. You weren't supposed to pull out. It's illegals here. We need help, please. Anyone. Answer." The message was sent into the void of space, repeated every hour through a narrowband signal that avoided council monitoring. Then he waited. Back on the Resolute, Mira was asleep in her cabin when the ship's AI woke her with a chime. "Captain, you have an incoming transmission. Origin Trathar 9. Mira sat up immediately. "Patch it through." The hologram flickered to life, showing Varek's tired, desperate face. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and explosions could be seen behind him. "You weren't supposed to pull out. It's illegals here." Then static filled the room. Mira stared at the frozen image for a long time. Moments later, she was on the bridge. Ro was already there, replaying the message. "We received it less than a minute ago," he said. "No one else has responded." "Of course not," Mira muttered. "The council blocked all civilian distress frequencies in that sector." Ro looked at her carefully. "What are you thinking?" She took a deep breath. "I'm thinking we go back." The crew exchanged nervous glances. "Captain," said Engineer Daly, "if we go back, we'll lose our rank, our pay, maybe even our ships." "Earth Command won't forgive this." Mira met their eyes one by one. "I don't care what Earth Command forgives. Those people fought beside us. They trusted us. If the council won't help them, humanity will." Silence filled the bridge again. Then Ro grinned slightly. "Well," he said, "I was getting tired of following rules anyway." Within hours, the human fleet began preparations. They couldn't openly return as soldiers, so Mira disguised the operation as a rescue retrieval. They reactivated old mining drones, refitted transport ships with salvaged cannons, and loaded AI defense turrets that had been banned for military use. They were not a proper army anymore, but humans were known for turning junk into miracles. In the cargo bay, Ro and a team of engineers welded armor plates onto civilian freighters. Sparks flew and music echoed through the metal halls. Daly laughed. "You really think this will work?" Ro grinned. "It doesn't have to work perfectly, it just has to work better than what they expect." Meanwhile, on Trathar 9, Varek led his small resistance across the burned plains. They moved quietly between destroyed towns, freeing captured citizens and hiding them in the mountains. They used what little tech the humans had left: communication jammers, drones, and even a few ground rovers. The illegals called them ghosts because they struck fast and disappeared, but Varek knew it couldn't last. Their weapons were running out, and every day more ships arrived from the illegals' main fleet. One night he stood outside the caves watching the sky. Red fire streaked across the clouds, more enemy ships entering orbit. His voice was full of despair. "Mira Hale, where are you?" 2 days later, the humans jumped back into the Trathar system, but quietly. Instead of announcing their return, Mira ordered silent running mode. The fleet powered down all major systems and drifted through the asteroid belt to avoid detection. From the observation deck, Mira could see the planet glowing with fires. "They've taken everything," she whispered. "Every city." Ro looked at the display. "We're picking up illegals' transmissions. They're converting the colonies into supply depots. Slavers, Mira said coldly. They're setting up trade routes for weapons. This isn't about territory, it's about profit. Daly pointed at the radar. There's a big signal here, a battleship. Probably their command ship. Mira's eyes narrowed. Good. If we're going to hit them, that's our first target. The plan was dangerous, borderline madness. The Resolute would act as bait, drawing the illegals' patrol fleet away from orbit, while smaller human ships would drop stealth pods filled with supplies and weapons for Varek's resistance. They couldn't defeat the illegals yet, but they could arm the locals and prepare the planet for a counterstrike. Mira gathered her crew in the war room. We're going in with limited shields and half our guns offline, she said. This is not a council mission. This is for every friend we left behind. For every colony that trusted us. She looked at each face in the room. No one here is forced to go. If you want out, you can take a shuttle back to the relay. No one moved. Rose smirked. Looks like you're stuck with us, Captain. As the Resolute began its stealth approach toward the planet, Mira sent one last encrypted message to Varek's last known signal. Hold your ground, old friend. Humanity is coming home. On the surface, Varek's comm unit crackled to life. He stared at the message on the screen. Luraten leaned closer. Who is it? Varek smiled for the first time in days. The humans, he said softly. They came back. At that moment, above the darkened sky, a bright flash tore through the clouds. The illegals' orbital sensors lit up as a single human warship, the Resolute, dropped from orbit and opened fire. The illegals' commanders screamed orders across the comms, but the humans had already begun their assault. Rowe grinned at the controls. You want it impossible, he said. Let's make it possible. And with that, the humans returned to the battlefield they had been ordered to abandon, ready to fight not for orders, but for loyalty. The skies over Trathar 9 burned with fire. Human and Tratharian eyes watched from caves, bunkers, and the few remaining towers as the illegals' fleet moved across the heavens, confident and ruthless. They had assumed the humans were gone for good. They had assumed the planet was easy prey. They were wrong. From the hidden canyon, Varek and his resistance forces watched the approaching warship. Its hull gleamed in the twin sun's light, the Resolute cutting through the dark sky like a silver blade. Behind it, smaller human ships followed, their engines silent until they reached firing range. Varek could hardly believe it. They actually came back, he whispered to Luraten. After all that we've lost, they came back. They never left us, Luraten replied softly. Not really. On board the Resolute, Captain Mira Hale surveyed the battlefield through the bridge's panoramic viewports. The human fleet was small compared to the illegals, but it was enough. They had speed, surprise, and the creativity humans were famous for. Weapons online, said Lieutenant Rowe, a gleam in his eye. We can't take all of them head on, but we can make them think we're everywhere. Mira nodded. Good. Engineer Daly, deploy the drones. Daly's hands flew over the console. Tiny machines with advanced AI streamed from the ship, weaving through the debris fields and asteroid belts, ready to hack enemy systems and mislead targeting arrays. The illegals would not see the full picture. Let's remind them why they fear humans, Mira said, her voice calm but deadly. On the ground, Varek coordinated with the Tratharian fighters. They had scavenged weapons left behind by humans and set traps in the canyon passes. Small teams of fighters would strike the illegals' patrols, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. It was risky, but it gave the human fleet time to establish orbital dominance. Varek's communicator buzzed. Captain Hale? Yes. Mira's voice came through, calm but firm. We're here. Follow our lead, but don't expose your position until I give the signal. Yes, Captain. Varek gritted his teeth. We are ready. The first clash was sudden and brutal. Human drones buzzed through the illegals' ships like a swarm of deadly insects, hacking shields, disabling engines, and planting small EMP charges. In the confusion, the human fleet darted between planets and asteroids, striking at the enemy's command nodes. Rowe shouted over the comms. They're trying to regroup, target their flagship. Mira's hand hovered over the firing sequence. Wait for the perfect moment. The illegals' command ship unleashed volleys of plasma across the canyon, where Tretharian fighters hid. Explosions rocked the landscape, throwing up dust and debris. Varek barked orders. Teams moved, quickly dodging falling wreckage, using tunnels and caves as cover and attacking from unexpected angles. Every human drone, every Tretharian strike disrupted the enemy's rhythm. Chaos spread across the illegals' ranks. Mira watched closely. "Now," she said. She activated a series of preset attack sequences. Lights blazed across the Resolute as energy torpedoes fired in precise arcs. The flagship shuddered under the hits. Systems overloaded. Smoke and fire erupted from its hull. The illegals' fleet scrambled to defend it, but the humans were already gone, appearing in another quadrant of the orbit, attacking with unexpected precision. The tactics were simple but brilliant. Use the enemy's confidence against them. Ro laughed over the comms. "They thought we left. They didn't expect humans to come back smarter, faster, stronger." Mira allowed herself a small smile. Humans don't abandon their own. On the surface, Varek led a daring raid against the illegals' landing camps. Teams of Tretharians armed with human weapons hit supply depots, freed prisoners, and destroyed small orbital transponders. In one canyon, Varek found a group of children trapped in a burned-out building. He swept them up, carrying them to safety, as human drones provided cover fire from above. "Captain Hale," Varek called into the comms, "your fleet is incredible. I've never seen anything like this." "Don't thank us yet," Mira replied. "We're just getting started." The illegals, meanwhile, were in shock. Their intelligence had expected humans to obey the withdrawal order, never to return. Commanders tried to send distress signals to reinforcements, but the human drones blocked or scrambled the frequencies. Within hours, several illegal ships were disabled, drifting helplessly in orbit. Others tried to flee, only to run into hidden human ambushes. The advantage was no longer theirs. It was humanity's. The turning point came when Mira targeted the enemy flagship again. Using a combination of hacking, drones, and orbital bombardment, she disabled its main engines. The ship drifted helplessly, and the human fleet focused fire on its weapons arrays. The flagship's captain, realizing defeat was imminent, sent a desperate transmission to the illegals' remaining ships. "Abort, retreat." It was too late. The other ships had lost coordination. Several were captured or destroyed by humans. The remaining illegals attempted to flee through asteroid fields, but the human fleet anticipated their paths and cut them off systematically. As dawn broke over the planet, the human fleet hovered above Trethar 9. Varek watched from the canyon below as the sky cleared, the fires still smoking but the worst of the destruction contained. He breathed deeply. "They've done it. Against all odds. They've done it." Mira's voice came through his communicator. "Varek, the illegals are finished here. Your planet is safe for now. Hold your ground. Rebuild. And never doubt that humanity will return if you need us." Varek smiled, relief and gratitude flooding through him. "You weren't supposed to come back, Captain. We thought all hope was lost." Mira's voice was steady, unwavering. "Hope is human. We never abandon it, or each other." The aftermath was quiet, but decisive. The Galactic Council, watching events unfold through sensors and intercepted transmissions, could no longer claim the illegals had free reign. Public outrage across multiple worlds forced the Council to recognize Trethar 9 as autonomous, under Tretharian protection. The humans, meanwhile, returned to their fleet, battered but victorious. They had broken every rule, defied every order, and yet had restored justice and honor. On the planet's surface, Varek and his people began the slow work of rebuilding. The children returned to schools, the markets reopened, and the once smoldering cities began to shine again in the twin suns' light. Mira stood on the deck of the Resolute, looking down at Trethar 9 one last time. Ro joined her, sipping a cup of coffee. "You think the Council will forgive us?" he asked. Mira shook her head with a wry smile. "No, but they'll never forget us. And the galaxy? They'll remember what humans are capable of." Ro laughed softly. Not bad for a species that was supposed to obey orders. Mira looked toward the horizon. We didn't obey orders. We obeyed loyalty. That's the difference. The Resolute turned toward deep space, the stars stretching into lines of light as it jumped to hyperspace. Trithar 9 was safe, and for now humanity had once again proven why they were feared, respected, and above all, never to be underestimated.